Okay, shalom, Yasharal. I hope you guys are doing well. Please forgive me ahead of time in this video. I'm a little under the weather, but Yahuah is good. So don't want to make this introduction long. So I came across this channel on YouTube, and this is what, when I saw it, this is what inspired me to do this video after prayer and seeking the Ruach HaKodesh for guidance on how to deliver this message. And so the channel that I came across was called Yasharal Instrumentals and Devotionals. And I saw that there were some some videos posted, and it had instrumental music playing with scriptures going across. So I didn't think nothing too much of it. I didn't click on any of the videos at the time. I was just kind of searching and seeing and looking at the different titles of the videos. But then when I started seeing that a lot of the titles of the videos were called Soaking Music for Shalom and Reflection, red flags went off. Now, I'm not saying that the person who created the channel itself is, wicked. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if you ever heard of the term soaking, if you ever done your research about it, which I highly recommend that you do, you will find that soaking is not of Yahuah. And what grieved me when I saw that is that this is really creeping in to the body of believers of Yahuah. There are actually Yahuah believers practicing soaking, not being aware that this is actually demonic, and it is occult. It is not of Yahuah, it is wicked. And I'm going to talk about what makes it wicked and where exactly it came from. You see, soaking is a religious practice called mysticism. Mysticism means the practice of religious ecstasies, which means it's a religious experience during an alternate state of consciousness. So in other words, this type of religious practice, when you are doing this, when you are participating and when you are worshiping that way, but putting Yahuah's name on it, you'll get into a place where you lose consciousness. Now, anytime you're worshiping Yahuah or claim to be worshiping Yahuah and you go into an alternative state of consciousness, that is not of Yahuah. Because one thing I know about Yahuah, you will always be in your right mind. Any type of worship, praise, anything that you're doing that causes you to be confused afterwards, you need to question what and who you were worshiping. Because true worship in Yahuah, you will not be going into an alternative state of consciousness. There's no religious ecstasy. There's no spiritual high, quote unquote, that you feel with worshiping Yahuah. First of all, it's not a feeling anyway. Worshiping Yahuah is not a feeling. Praising Yahuah is not a feeling. And I think a lot of people are caught up in wanting to have this some type of sensation, and this is how people get caught up in what I would call dangerous worship, strange fire. This is how a lot of Yasharal in scripture got in trouble with Yahuah, because they were worshiping Yahuah just how the heathen nations worship their false mighty ones. So back to mysticism. So the word mystic is derived from the Greek noun mystis, which designated an initiate of a secret cult or religion. Now, this came about during the Hellenistic age between 323 BCE and 330 CE. Now, if you know anything about Hellenism during that time, you would know that was the time when the Hellenists were pretty much in power, and they were forcing their religious beliefs. They were forcing their culture on the entire world. They were forcing their Greek philosophy and ideologies upon the entire world. And here and so forth, you have what we have today. Many people practicing these Greek practices when it comes to worship. And it has crept in Yahuah. Well, actually, I won't even say crept in Yahuah. It's probably been there. There's probably many people who've been doing this, who claim to be worshiping Yahuah, but practicing mysticism. It's shocking for me to see this for the first time. And I'm blown away that there are Yahuah believers who are doing this. They're doing it in their homes, their vehicles, and all of that. See, mysticism, it lets you transcend the physical to experience enlightenment. And when it talks about transcend, it means going beyond the limits. So this religious practices causes a person to go beyond the physical limit. So now they're leaving this physical realm and going into some place that they have no business going. And this is practiced a lot in these Christian churches. And this is one of the reasons why I ran up out of there, because I used to do this stuff. It feels like it was sweet, it was relaxing, it felt like it was innocent, but it really wasn't. Transcend the physical experience. That is wicked indeed. And there are people who, if you ever heard conversations, there are people, and I've heard this, people use this term, I can't think of it right now, like leaving themselves, like feeling like their quote unquote spirit is leaving their body and they're going into another spiritual level or something like that, where physically they're not present. They're gone mentally. Their mind is off into another level of consciousness. Like they're just gone. And that's all demonic, Hellenistic. See, people who practice mysticism comes with Kundalini. This is a false ruach that is quote unquote activated. And the word Kundalini is a Hindu term for mystical power or force that underlies the spirituality. It's commonly referred to as serpent power. So the word Kundalini, the word Kundala is in that word. The word Kundala means coiled like a snake. So what happens in this practice, this so-called serpent power, it lays coiled at the base of the spine. In its intent, it says it pierces the main energy centers on its way to the crown. You know what the crown is? The mind. So the object of this serpent-like power is to curl around your body until it gets to the place where it wants to get to, your mind. And what is the one thing that Satan wants? The mind. What is the greatest battlefield that we face? In our minds. In our minds. Where a lot of fiery darts thrown at our minds. And this is why we have to protect ourselves, because if anything comes in and takes your mind, it has you. And there are many people, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I first came to Yahuah, I used to, look for these instrumentals on YouTube that I thought were, safe to listen to while I, prayed. And I found out the hard way. So this just in my opinion, you don't need instrumentals to praise Yahuwah as far as going on YouTube. Now, if you have instruments and you want to, create your own tune, you want to play a piano, a drum, a trumpet, or clarinet, or any type of musical instrument, then, you do that through the Ruach. But a lot of these instrumentals, a lot of those have quote unquote soaking music. And you got to be careful clicking on those and playing it in your house, because you're actually opening up some doors for the demonic to come at you. And they'll come and, you get tormented while you're sleeping. Like, just this craziness. And the thing about this Kundalini thing, there are manifestations that happen. I don't know if anyone heard of that Toronto revival. This is, one of the things that blew up. I can't remember the time frame that it happened, but that started spreading like crazy. So manifestations like tingling skin, sensation of heat or cold, a gentle wind blowing through your body. And they said when you feel those type of manifestations, that is the time to quote unquote be still in the presence of whomever presence they say that is there. There have also been people who are saying that, in this practice where they they see the persona of an aura. They're really seeing a demonic force, a demonic being in their area, around them, practicing this demonic religious experience. So I was, when I saw that channel, I was, and I'm not sure if the person who created the channel even has the understanding or knowledge of what soaking is, but it's not good. And if you're a Yahuah believer and you're practicing soaking, or you're listening to things that says soaking, I highly, highly suggest you to stop. And then, devotionals, just to me personally, when I hear the word devotional, I automatically think of some type of Christian aspect. And see, a lot of this stuff comes from these Christian churches, and there are a lot of people who bring it in and mix it with Yahuwah, and there's no mix with Yahuwah. This is what Yahuwah is saying to these people. Yahuah 9:4, 23-24. It says, the hour comes, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship Abba and Ruach and Amut. For Abba seeks such to worship him. Yahuwah is that Ruach, and they that worship him must worship in Ruach and in Amut. So in other words, when you're praising Yahuwah, when you're glorifying Yahuwah, it must be honesty. It must be real. That's truth. There's no no theory to this. There's no formula to this. It's if it's honest or not. And when you're bringing in all this other stuff and then putting Yahuwah's name on it as if it's righteous, it's not. So Yahuwah has strict warnings for us on how we are to worship him. And we are not to worship him how the heathen worshiped their false mighty ones at the time, according to the book of Dabarim, chapter 12, verse 30 and 31. It says, take heed to yourself that you be not snared by following them. You are saying, now be careful. A snare is a trap. Because if you get caught in that snare, you'll have difficulty getting out of that snare unless Yahuah himself deliver you through his Ruach HaKodesh. It says, take heed to yourself that you be not snared by following them. After that, they be destroyed from before you, and that you acquire not after their Elohim, or false mighty ones, saying, how did these nations serve their Elohim? Even so will I do. Likewise. See, understand what Yahshua did at the time. The moment they took their focus off of worshiping Yahuah the right way and started inquiring and started being curious about how the other nations worship their false deities, that's when they got caught. The moment you start wondering, oh, what's that all about? Or how is this? Or how is that? You're going to get caught. You can't take your eyes off Yahuah. Worship him and him only. Don't add no extra stuff to worshiping Yahuah. Listen, I know for me, when I'm praying to him and when I'm worshiping him, I don't need no music in the background. It's just me and him. It's simple. It's really simple. But you see how these heathens around us today worship their deities in many forms, including this mysticism. In verse 31, it says, you shall not do so unto Yahuah your Elohim, for every abomination to Yahuah which he hates have they done unto their false mighty ones. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their Elohim. So understand, when you bring this before Yahuah's presence, this type of dangerous worship, it's an abomination in the eyes of Yahuah. It is evil. And there are Yahuah believers, there are people who are supposed to be teachers in Yahuah, who are privily bringing this practice in. They're bringing it in, making it seem like it's innocent, and then they have people following them. When I say this is a tight walk, it's a tight walk. We got to be careful what we listen to. I said this before, what we listen to, what we read, what we open ourselves up to. This mysticism is very dangerous. Very dangerous. You're activating the Kundalini, a Hinduism practice. That's where it comes from. And Yahuah says, don't worship him in that manner. Another thing, just be careful. Satan is on the prowl, and he has many devices that he is using to distract the followers of Yahuah. He has many devices. Don't be ignorant of his devices. Don't look at something and be like, oh, it's nothing. No, it's always something. We always got to be on guard. Because the minute you drop your guard is when you can get caught up in something and eventually be destroyed, just how Yahuah destroyed those heathen nations at the time of Scripture before Yahshua. And so he will still do today. So listen, don't bring these Christian practices in your home. There's nothing in Scripture that talks about daily devotionals. Right? You just apply yourself. You talk to Yahuah. You pray to him. You give him time. You spend time with him. That's it. That's it. Nothing extra, nothing more, nothing less. But that's all in this video. I thank Yahuah. He is amazing. He is awesome. I love you guys. You have a wonderful evening.